States across the country are introducing bills that critics say curb the rights of transgender people. Seth Doane investigated one measure in Arkansas which bans gender-affirming health care for minors. He spoke to a teenager who is a plaintiff in the lawsuit against the state.
Dylan Brandt, who legally changed his first name last year, is now a plaintiff in a lawsuit along with 3 other transgender youth, their families, and 2 doctors, filed by the American Civil Liberties Union. The suit takes issue with Arkansas House Bill 1570, first passed in March, which bans for minors what's known as gender-affirming medical care, which helps a transgender person with their physical transition.
I'm on testosterone, and I've been on that for 10 months.
You'd lose that if this law goes into effect?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
It's horrible. I was really insecure with myself and not happy before this. I had a lot of depression. It was really hard.
Brandt is one of the roughly 2% of U.S. high schoolers who identify as trans. With his little brother by his side, as he began transitioning at 13, he chronicled bits of it on TikTok, which his family gave us permission to show. He went from long blonde hair to appearing more masculine. With psychological counseling and under supervision from a pediatrician, he started taking cross-sex hormones.
Okay, you ready?
By injecting testosterone.
My name is Dylan. This is my voice 1 day on T. This is my voice 2 months on T.
Marveling as his voice dropped.
This is my voice 7 months on testosterone.
We first met Dylan at a cafe in Fort Smith, Arkansas, with his mom, Joanna, and 13-year-old brother, Luke. Dylan explained how as early as 4th grade he'd had confusing feelings that stretched on until his teenage years.
I really wanted to cut my hair, like really bad. And so when I did that, that felt really good. And then I held the door for somebody and they said, "Thank you, sir." And I was like, oh yeah, that, yeah, that.
This little thing?
Little thing. That sir put words to how I was feeling and I was like, oh yeah, that felt nice. And then anytime after that somebody would say ma'am or something, I'd be like, yeah, no, I don't like that.
So Seth joins us now from Athens, Greece, with more on the fight that these teens are facing. Seth, sometimes I feel like I'm playing a game of where in the world is Seth Doane, because you're sort of we never know where you're going to pop up, but I'm really glad you were able to join us from Greece for the story that's happening here in the U.S. We've covered some of the anti-LGBTQ measures, but it's difficult to know just how many of them are popping up from state to state. How many have been introduced over last year, and why is this happening now?
We asked the Human Rights Campaign, they're the LGBTQ advocacy group. They've been monitoring this. They've never seen so much legislation. They've counted more than 125 pieces of legislation in 33 states that have targeted transgender rights. And we've also spoken with the ACLU. They suggest that the reason this is happening is fallout following some of the progress that the LGBT community has made, as they would see as progress in marriage equality and things like that. We asked, they have filed 5 different lawsuits since January, and they say they're seeing a lot of the same writing, same words used in this legislation. In fact, they, in an interview with us, called it a pre-drafted. They look at groups like the Heritage Foundation, who are working, conservative groups who are working with state legislatures, and they say they are working there to try to get this legislation passed through state legislatures. So we took those questions to the Heritage Foundation, the conservative think tank in Washington, D.C., and said, are these pre-drafted? We had seen something on their website that said, click here for model legislation. Now, what they say is they are working with legislatures, and they have put together a set of principles under a group they're calling the Promise to Protect the America's Children Coalition. And they say these are principles that are available for anyone to read. But yes, we have worked with state legislatures. They didn't mention exactly how many. But they say these are not pre-drafted, as the ACLU alleges, but they say this is more out of grassroots support for these measures. Emery.
So I think that, for an awful lot of people, gender-affirming care comes with a big question mark. They just really don't know what it is. So we saw a little taste of what it is with the young man that you interviewed, that clearly testosterone is part of it, but they don't know what it means for a 6-year-old or versus a 16-year-old. So what exactly is gender-affirming care, and what's at stake for these kids if the Arkansas law goes into effect?
Gender-affirming care, Anne-Marie, is this care that helps a transgender person with their physical transition. So you saw in that clip Dylan using a testosterone. That only comes after quite a bit of counseling. There are different steps, and this is something that's pretty well regulated by WPATH, a group of 1,500 medical professionals in the United States who've set out a kind of course that doctors can go through. And one of the things that you don't see in that clip that I thought was interesting was the boy's mother, Joanna Brandt, told us it was really only after extensive talk and dialogue with their doctor, who incidentally is also joining them in this lawsuit that the ACLU has filed, that she felt comfortable as a parent going through this. I thought it was interesting in that cafe when Dylan says, you know, the way I was feeling just wasn't, my insides were not matching my outsides. And it was not until someone called him a boy, sir, when he held open that door, that things started to click. So this is a very long process. Doctors say that these feelings can come up as young as from 2 to 5 years old. So it's not that this is immediate, that someone starts the hormones or the testosterone that you saw Dylan taking. It is only after a long personal process and then significant conversations with doctors that this is allowed, or they would even move forward with it.
Seth, you know, it's really good that you have done this piece. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, you know, and it's not, of course, it's not surprising. We can't know everything about everything, but I think that if people understand that what we're dealing with here are children. We're not talking about Olympic athletes competing who are adults. We're talking about just kids trying to feel comfortable in their own skin, which is tough enough. So I'm looking forward to the piece, Seth. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
So you can watch Seth's full 60 Minutes Plus report right now on Paramount Plus. There you can also get breaking news and thousands of episodes of your favorite TV shows. Just visit ParamountPlus.com for a free trial.